I get this question quite often of when should a small business outsource their accounting and bookkeeping? So I thought I'd do a slide presentation, kind of talk through it to help small businesses figure out when and also why they should outsource. First, a little bit about myself, ex-CPA, auditor, financial statements, worked in software for quite a while, helped CPA firms implement paperless systems, and since 2012, with Basis 365, deliver fractional accounting department for small businesses. So I've been doing this for quite a while. Now, first, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about what is a small business, because I've also hear people are startup, I'm mid-size, I'm small, and there's kind of an inconsistent understanding of the terms. So if you Google it or Chat GPT it, it's pretty much a business between 0 and 50 million, which is a gigantic range. Most small businesses are going to be in the lower end of that. But you can see a $40 million business, which to me would be mid or pretty large, is still considered small in the grand scheme of things. So this presentation is going to talk about a segment of that range. Another way to look at it is headcount. So again, 500 people is still small, which is pretty large. So I'll also be talking about, maybe one to probably more like 100 employees being a small business. So one of the challenges we saw when we started Basis is there's this accounting gap. Most startups and people who start their own company are down on the left side, which is a do-it-yourself, maybe an Upwork or back then Craigslist contractor or something. Maybe it's a spouse. You don't know, but it kind of works when you get to some threshold where things fall apart, and that's typically around 1 million. It could be different factors, different revenue ranges, but I'm just going to use that as a standard for when you start to get big enough where you don't know really what's going on. And then on the other end, where 20 million, let's say, where at that point you have enough profit and stuff going on where, or stuff, I should say, volume, complexity, strategy at the bottom, where most businesses will hire full-time equivalents and implement more ERP systems and need some way more structure and have a broader team. But how do you get from one to the other point? That's the challenge, right? You can't continue to do what you're doing at 1 million, but you don't have enough work and don't have enough profit to hire an accounting department. And that's the challenge that we saw. Again, on the early stage, if you're doing it yourself, you don't have time. You're not an accountant, so you probably shouldn't be doing it. You see a lot of, QuickBooks or Xero data where it's incorrect. A contractor where maybe that's not their full-time job. They may have something come up and they're just gone. The spouse, again, you see maybe they're not too thrilled with each other, where they probably don't want to be doing the accounting for your small business, or you outgrow their skills. So a lot of times we'll see that DIY is just somebody who maybe has picked up bookkeeping, they don't have a college degree in accounting, maybe don't have experience in an accounting department, so quickly kind of outgrow that skill and don't know what to do. The solution is usually hire. Don't know what quite to hire, right? If you haven't done accounting, what level of skill do you need for your accounting department? And you can see here some of the challenges of hiring. One is cost prohibitive because it can be expensive. You have benefits, etc. You also now have to manage that person, and that takes time and resources. You have more compliance issues the larger you get, and the HR compliance is not a fun thing for small business owners to deal with. Employees need ongoing training that you would need to be responsible for and sending them out to do. Employees have costs, right? If they have an office, then they've got equipment, or even if they work from home, there's still some equipment and software licenses, etc. there. And then lastly, the one-person department is the bottleneck. So again, on that range, you really don't have, maybe in the higher end of that range, 8 hours of work per day to keep that person busy. So you're going to have them doing other admin tasks and HR and insurance and running errands or whatever you may be doing. But when things are busy, if you have a busy cycle, the accounting department of one is only going to be able to do so much. And then you start hiring part-time people, et cetera. And now you're really building an accounting department. And for a small business, that's not really something you should probably spend your resources on. Really recommend businesses use their resources and hire people who do what they do, and then try to outsource the rest. So back to what I said before, what do you need to hire? Some of the red flags that you're going to start to see is my financials don't match my expectations. I talked to a prospect not too long ago where their income statement was showing profit, but their cash was not going up. Things are just not making sense anymore to them. You need accurate or you need reliable financials. So sometimes whatever the solution is, it's just not coming to you regularly enough, accurately enough, and they don't make sense to you. And so again, what should you hire? When I'm going around and talking, what I often hear is from business owners is I need a bookkeeper or I need a CFO. And you can see here that those two roles are pretty much the extreme in the accounting world. And almost all situations, you need something in the middle. Bookkeeper, if that's what you think you need, you probably are already outgrowing what a general bookkeeper would do. And again, I'll stereotype a little bit in here. And on the CFO side, that's super horsepower. You don't need them coding your transactions. You need them doing other things. So you really don't need either of these things. So what do you need? I've kind of created a pyramid here to show the roles that we kind of think of in terms of an accounting department. There are different roles, different names. Everybody could come up with something a little bit different, but overall it's the same concept. You have the CFO at the top, and you can see they primarily focus on strategy and leadership of the accounting function or the finance function. You have a controller who's doing oversight, planning. They can do some analysis, variance, etc. You have an accounting manager type role that's doing more of the financial reporting, kind of rolling things up, supervising maybe the clerks or accountants or whatever the corporation calls those roles. You have an accountant doing the reconciliation, maybe part of an approval process. And then you have bookkeepers, or I put clerks, and really corporations don't have a bookkeeper role normally. It's going to be accountant 1, accountant 2, senior accountant, things like that. Sometimes clerk, AP, AR clerks, things like that. They're ultimately recording things. So you really need all of those things, but how do you get that, especially when you're phasing through without hiring multiple people, which I mentioned a small business can't afford, right? So how do you hire these things fractionally? That's a challenge. How do you adjust up and down when things shift in your business? Right? You're going to say to somebody, you work 4 hours and now you work 3 hours a day. You're not going to keep them around. Do you over or under hire, right? So you have one person doing everything, which doesn't sound like a great idea. And is this really a cost-effective and reliable way to scale? I created this image here because, again, what I normally see is somebody hires. And so you have two choices. You're going to overhire, right? So, and you're going to underhire. So the underhire means they got like a bookkeeper doing strategic things and they're going to be stressed out. Or you overhire, right? So you have a CFO pushing the luggage, right? Doing the recording, which is a very, very expensive way to do most of the work of an accounting department. So neither of those are great options. So what we deliver at Basis 365 is an outsourced accounting and bookkeeping service for forward-thinking businesses. And really that's that scalable fractional accounting department. And that's a solution that we built to cover that accounting gap that I mentioned before. How does a business get from point A, which is 1 million or 20 employees or whatever that is, to point B, which is 10 million, 20 million, 100 employees, whatever that threshold is. There's in different stages along the way, and we can kind of dial up the roles as needed as a company grows or unfortunately contracts. So our focus here is helping people build strong businesses. And how do we do that? We've developed a profit approach to outsource accounting and bookkeeping. So you can see here we've got those 6 letters: performance, relationships, optimization, fractional, integrated, and timely. And we feel that internally, if we deliver on those things, we'll have great customers, great happy customers, and deliver that value. And for our customers, these are the things I think you should be looking for in whatever solution you go with. You want your accountants to be performance focused. That's going to be more forward thinking rather than in the past. So if it's just, here's your income statement, here's how you did, looks great, thank you very much, that's not enough to scale along that path that I mentioned. So a relentless focus on cash flow, profit, performance. Cash is king. That's obviously the number one, but how do you become more profitable? How do you manage your costs, things like that? You want your accountants to be thinking of that and what tactics you should be taking to do those. And once you've done those, what's the next thing you should be doing? Relationship driven. So for us, it's a very collaborative experience. It's a two-way relationship. And we're also helping our customers build those strategic relationships that they need. We often see where customers want to exit their company. They're thinking about doing it in 1 year or maybe 2 years, and that's kind of not enough time to really be fully prepared. And so thinking ahead on what strategic relationships you should be working on to help that business succeed. Optimization is really where it's workflow based, process based. Before that 1 million, it's shoot from the hip, wild, wild west, pay bills whenever you have money. And to get to that 20 million in scale and to exit, you need that structure in place. You need to be more process driven. You need to take things more seriously and hold the team accountable to do things to kind of excel. Also, that includes fostering a culture of learning and development, so constantly improving skills on our team internally, but also the customer's team and those that are working with us, because it's really, again, as I said, collaborative. It's not just us doing all the work. We're working with team members at our customers' locations. And fractional, again, I think just provides some flexibility for any business scaling and is the best option for those types of tasks, whether it's marketing, accounting, not just for accounting. There's those logical things that make sense to outsource and have that fractional approach. Integrated goes back to, again, we're integrating systems and building on the back of cloud-based technology for that forward-thinking business, but we're also integrated with your team. So we're still Basis 365, but we're collaborating with different members of the team. And a lot of our long-term customers really see us as an extended part of their team. That's how integrated we try to be. And lastly here, and really it's sort of sometimes the reverse, you'll see in a couple of slides, is being proactive, responsive, and on time. Most of the time I'm talking to a potential customer is because whatever solution they have now is not doing those things, let alone all of the other things that I mentioned. So being a dependable partner is key to us. We know that that's the most important, really. Otherwise, most of the other things don't matter. And if we can deliver on that, the customers are going to be quite happy. The other thing too is, again, you saw the pyramid approach, but this is a little bit what it might look like for different sized businesses. And so again, with outsourcing, you're only paying for what you need. So for a $1 million business, maybe you need 50% of a bookkeeper's time. Maybe that's, what is that? 30% of an accountant's time, and you kind of get the idea, right? You don't need a lot of controller time, and I don't even have a CFO on here. Just from the core accounting department, that's what you need. CFO would probably even be a smaller slice of a $1 million business. You get to 5 million, you can see things change. You need a little bit higher skill at that point. Maybe you start working with a fractional CFO in that range. That's fine. We have customers doing that as well. But again, get the idea of the scalable solution means you are paying for what you need at that point in time, which is the most cost-effective way to solve that. Another thing, when you're looking at whoever those outsourced partners are, there are hourly and fixed price options. So we would recommend fixed price so you know what to expect. Hourly rates really encourage inefficiency, right? If the longer it takes me to do something, if you're going to pay the bill, I guess the better, right? And that doesn't sound good for anybody. We've all had those experiences working with attorneys. And the other thing too is, people complain about hourly rates, or the hours, but a lot of times if you're not an expert in that field, you don't really know how long it should take to do a thing. So some of that frustration is it takes longer than you think it should have, but you don't really know what's right or wrong. Just not a fun experience for anybody. Fixed pricing, again, just means whoever the partner is you're working with, they need to focus on efficiency. Doesn't mean your price will never change. It just means it's more predictable and you can plan more appropriately. When we talk about forward-thinking businesses, there are others outside of these industries, but we really build our services around creative and professional services. So those are creative agencies, marketing firms, PR firms, management consultants, things like that, typically billing for time or project-based work, or software technology companies. So again, having that software background and loving working with software and cloud-based tech, that we just like working with those organizations and understand the needs for that type of accounting as well, which is a little bit different than creative and professional services. So a little bit of a niche to understand what the metrics are you should be looking at for those industries. When a customer comes on board as a prospect, we're really talking about the pain points, basic health check, and trying to scope that fixed price. So again, it's not a sales process. It's really problem solving, and a consultation. Like, what are your pains? What's causing you to reach out? What can we do to help? Are we a great fit, or can we get somebody else to bring in that's a better fit? But that's conversation is more of how are things looking, and what can we do better, or what can we do to help you? The onboarding side is more, now we're hands-on, we're digging into the details. We can do a more comprehensive health check than the basic. The basic is more just, is your data correct? If your data is not correct, we can't really come up with strategic solutions on how to improve your performance. Once we do the comprehensive health check, now we know the data is solid and we can start coming up with a strategy. The strategic partner assessment, where we start digging in and finding out who your partners are and make sure you've got the right ones in place. Cleanup and tactics. So again, a lot of the cleanup, we inherit books where they're not in good shape. So that's part of onboarding. And then we kind of look at the systems and figure out which systems we want to be working with. Sometimes we implement something right away. Sometimes we're just taking inventory and thinking about what might be needed in the future. And then ongoing, where we're doing periodic health checks and kind of looking at, okay, now how things are looking and what tactics should we be doing next. Doing that tactical follow through, that could be things that we do, like setting up invoice reminders, things like that, or it could be things that your team needs to do, whether that's a business model change to project based to recurring revenue, or operational changes in systems. Strategic partner maintenance, that we'll continue to do. Try to identify, if I hear the signal that, oh, you might be looking for executive compensation help, bring somebody in to help you with that. And systems improvements. Again, implement a system, improve it, and then what can we do to make it better? So that constant improvement. And implement those processes and document those processes to make sure that you can scale successfully. So some of the other options you see, and you saw those on that little chart that I had in the beginning of a bookkeeper, the DIY, or the full-time person. We also see some customers work with CPA firms for their accounting, and some can do that okay. But most of CPA firms are built for taxes, or what I did, audit, and tend to do the books just to sort of generally keep the tax team busy outside of tax season. Again, stereotyping here with all of these things. There can be a part-time bookkeeper who has a degree in accounting and was a corporate controller. Okay, might be a little bit different. But in general, what I see customers coming from when it's part-time, where their strengths and weaknesses are, full-time controller, if you're going to hire that, what strengths you have there, what some of the challenges you might have there, CPA firm strengths, and then from an outsource perspective, we think that's the best value for that scalable solution that you may need. So to wrap things up, hopefully that was helpful. I mentioned some of these before, how to be more profitable, manage cost effectively. These are some of the playbooks we have, which have tactics inside of them. So if a business is struggling with profit, we go to the profitability playbook and start implementing some of those tactics. If those things sound interesting to you and you're looking to outsource your accounting, click that Contact Us button. It'll point to a website contact form, and you will talk to me and go through one of those problem-solving free consultations. Thanks a lot.